Can everyone see and hear me all right?
Yep.
All right, thank you. The moon casts a pearl-colored path, and I, ducking into the shadows, carry a platter of beef roast. So raw, I can smell the blood to the edge of the backyard swimming pool. Already Dad has reached the shallow end, and my younger brothers, Michelangelo and Leonardo, my mother had a passion for art, are not far behind. I coo to them. Their tails move from side to side with anticipation. And carefully, I have learned to be careful. Extend the beef into Dad's open, hungry jaws. Michael and Leo scramble over, snapping teeth and hissing. Sss, sss. I understand their impatience. Then, while Dad is rolling in sheer ecstasy from his meal, I drop 2 large steaks into their mouths. They grip their treasures tight in their teeth and move away from each other, reptilian eyes darting suspiciously. Dad buries his teeth in his roast, drippings smeared down his snout. His eyes golden, even in the dark. He is happy in this moment, being fed, remembered, tended to. Only when I feed him does he come close. Once his jaw is clamped down on the meat, he dashes away. I watch them, my family, until they have finished eating, and I swear they smile. As reported by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, 2.5 million women left the job market since the beginning of the pandemic, compared to 1.8 million men, as they take on more responsibilities of homeschooling and everyday parenting. Dr. Vanessa Kennedy of Psychology at Driftwood Recovery states that women are generally perceived as more nurturing and better suited to provide family care, which is largely related to cultural ideas about gender roles. However, what is less explored is the mental toll it takes on women to abandon their own needs and wants to cater to those around them. Through the use of metaphor, this prose explores one girl's efforts to hold her family together and the effects it has on everyone involved. Scars and Scales by Sarah Raquel Orden. I picked the dress for Mom to wear in the casket. I helped my brothers with their ties. I led Dad to the car. I accepted meals and pies from well-wishing neighbors. I hugged family friends as they offered their sincerest condolences. She was such a great woman. Their poor brothers. After the funeral, Dad locked himself in the garage in a t-shirt and sweats. Dad got sick first. I noticed his face growing sallow and stretched after a moistened washcloth, some chicken soup, and a visit to the doctor who reminded me to let Dad mourn in his own way. Dad fared no better. Over the next few days, Dad got worse. And then the fever came to Michael and Leo. They burned in their beds, twisting in agony. At night, I heard them cry for Mom the way they had when they were little. There was nothing I could do but pretend our lives were the same. I cooked, cleaned, took temperatures. And then the tails grew, and the scales split their skin. When the first scales appeared, I was nearly useless from only a few hours of sleep. I missed a week and a half of school. When I first noticed their tails beginning to grow, a protuberance of spiked flesh gliding down their spines, I did not call the doctor. Mom had taught me how to cook. In the kitchen, she'd play disco music and show me how to make her famous macaroni with 3 cheeses. Mom and I bumped hips pulling cookie sheets from the oven. Now I get up at 6 every morning, put on whatever's clean, and feed my family again. Chicken, hamburger, steak, lamb chops, but only when they're on sale. Dad, Michael, and Leo know this feeding schedule like they know every inch of the pool. It has been 3 months now to the day since Mom died. On the table, a pile of mail collects dust. The red postmarks at the bottom, a reminder of when time stopped for us. At first, I tried to keep up, but on top of taking care of my dad and brothers, it got too hard. Now I only open the mail in my father's name. Anything in mom's goes on the pile. A burial mound of catalogs and advertisement circulars. When I returned to school after mom died, the school counselor paged me into her office. I sat in her uncomfortable chair, and I stared at her bifocals and toot red hair. She looked at me with concern. "How are you, dear?" she asked. "I'm fine." "Artemisia, you know you can tell me anything. The loss of a parent is a very traumatic event. Anything you say will be held in the strictest confidence. That's my job." My eyes scanned her desk, littered with files and magazines, a bowl of sugar-free candy next to her computer. "I'm fine. It's okay to have these feelings. You may be angry or upset or sad." I balled my fist up and said, "I'm fine." Alone before bedtime, I stared at myself in the mirror, naked from the waist up. I could see scars bubbling beneath the surface, ripped flesh from mother to daughter. I wanted to be a girl again. I wanted to think only of myself, to tease my brothers, to paint my nails purple lightning, asphalt gray, pumpkin pie spice. I wanted someone else's mom to die slowly, poisoned from the inside. One of the first times I fed Dad, his teeth sliced my arm as I held a cube steak above his snout. I shrieked and I held my arm to my chest. The blood flowed thick and fast, staining my shirt. I scooted to the edge of the pool and dipped my feet in, one by one. Dad does not move. I submerge my calves. I can hear my pulse pounding in my head. I close my eyes and I see my mother. Right before Mom died, she held my hand in her bony grasp and she brushed her dry lips against my cheek. "Take care of your brother," she said. "Take care of your dad. They need you." She smiled, her fingers stroking the underside of my wrist. Dad slips beneath the water in one motion, no splash. I hold my hands in my lap and wait. Dad reemerges, sticks his neck out, and lays it in my lap. I have not touched my father in months, but in some strange way, his skin is familiar. I look back at the house, at the light on in the kitchen, where I'll prepare breakfast tomorrow, and then I'll get dressed, go to school, turn in half-finished assignments, and walk invisible and friendless down the halls. I slip like rain into the water. Underwater, I open my eyes and I see my family waiting for me in a circle, me in the center. I grasp my father's back, and with my brothers beside me, I glide seamlessly into the darkness.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Number 2. Speaker number 2, Ariana.
Yes.
Hopefully I pronounced.
Can you hear and see me just fine? Can you hear me?
I can't.
You can't?
I can, but
Okay.
I noticed that there was like a delay, so I want to make sure that it's freezing up too. Is everyone else seeing her freeze up occasionally?
No, she looks all right to me.
Okay.
If you haven't already, if everyone clicks the 3 dots on your toolbar where it says more actions, not you, Ariana, if we can help.
Yeah, not the performance.
I thought it was me.
No, sorry, everyone watching, and then select performance settings, and then just move it down to, honestly, everyone could drop it down to the last if you're not performing, because that'll turn off the video for everyone. So just second to last, and that'll should help with some bandwidth issues.
Ariana, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I can't.
Okay.
Hang tight, Ariana. We'll get it figured out.
You know what? I'll just drop out. I'm the guest. So the live stream is up, right? If I just go to
Yeah,
live stream?
exactly.
All right, cool. I'll do that. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Mm-hmm. All right. Amanda, can you see Ariana?
I cannot. Can
Okay.
everyone else hear?
Yes.
Maybe try like.
Yes, I can.
Okay, let me leave and come back.
Yes.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, you can begin whenever you're ready.
At first, our pack was all hair and snarl and floor-thumping joy. We forgot the bar cautions of our mothers and fathers and the promises we made to be civilized and ladylike. We tore through the rooms, overturning dresser drawers, pawing through neat piles of starched underwear, smashing light bulbs with our bare fist. The room was windowless and odorless. We remedied this by spraying exuberant yellow streams all over the bunks. The nuns watched us from the corner of the bedroom, their tiny faces pinched with displeasure. Sister Josephine smelled easy to kill. Cultural assimilation may make an ethnic minority feel at ease in America, but it can tear their lives apart. The Very Well-Being Mind on June 27, 2022, explains that assimilation can drain the culture out of a person and sever their personal identity, stemming from the loss of language, traditions, and customs when trying to relate to a family member or friend from their original country. The situation gets worse when a parent wants their child to adopt American culture so they can succeed, which then the child begins to believe that it's better to choose an American identity over a Mexican identity. And then they begin to believe that it's better to assimilate so they can survive. In this prose, author Karen Russell examines how assimilation can affect a person and change them completely. St. Lucy's School for Girls, Raised by Wolves, by Karen Russell. We arrived at St. Lucy's that morning, a part of a pack of 15 strong. Our mothers and fathers were werewolves. They were ostracized by the local wolves for having sometimes thumbs and human children. Their condition skips a generation. We couldn't keep up with the purebred wolves, but we never stopped crawling. Our parents wanted something better for us. They wanted to get us braces and to use towels and to be fully bilingual. The nuns, they said, would make us into naturalized citizens of human society. We didn't know at that time that our parents would be sending us away for good. That first afternoon, the nuns gave us free rein to the grounds. Everything was new, exciting, and interesting. There were holes everywhere. We supplemented some of these holes by digging some of our own. We entered sticks in our itchy new jumpers and some friendly, unfortunate squirrels. We had just sprawled out in the sun for an afternoon nap when the nuns reappeared. When my older sister saw the nuns approaching, she instinctively bristled. The oldest sister held something awful and inarticulable, a disambulate for hurt and panic. Our littlest sister had the quickest reflexes. She backed into the corner of the garden, snarling in the most menacing register that an 8-year-old wolf girl can muster. Then she ran. It took them 2 hours to pin her down and tag her. Hello, my name is Mirabella. The full moon nights were the worst. Worse than the cold toilet seats and boiled tomatoes. Worse than trying to will our tongues to curl around our false new names. Hello, my name is Claudette. Keep your mouth shut, I repeated during our walking drills, staring straight ahead. Keep your shoes on your feet. Mouth shut, shoes on feet. Do not chew on your new penny loafers. Do not. I stumbled around in daze, my mouth black with shoe polish. We never wanted to run away so badly in our lives. Sister Josephine left the wooden gate wide open, but we knew we couldn't return to the woods. Not until we were civilized. We heard rumors about former wolf girls who can never adapt to their new culture. Mouth shut, shoes on feet. One day, the nuns gave Mirabella and I a bag of bread and told us to feed the ducks. Mirabella was sure to eat the birds, but then who would get blamed for the duck blood? Exactly! As soon as we were on the wooden gates, I snatched the bread and ran off. Mirabella gave chase, nipping at my heels. She thought it was a game. In a moment, she was on top of me. I snarled at her. I bit her shoulder once, twice. Get away, I screamed. Later, the nuns found Mirabella strangling a duck with her rosary beads. After that, I spent less time with Mirabella. I was one of the good girls. I wasn't great. I wasn't terrible. I was solidly in the middle of the pack. The pack was worried about Mirabella. Mirabella would rip foam chunks out of the church pews and replace them with ham bones and girl dander. She loved roaming the grounds, wagging her invisible tail. We all had a hard time giving that up. When we got excited, mouth shut. We fell to the ground and started pumping our backsides, shoes on feet. The nuns decided that we needed an inducement dance. They announced that we would celebrate our successful rehabilitation with an abundant. They knew we weren't ready to dance with the brothers. We weren't even ready to talk to them. The nuns swept our hair back into high bouffant hairstyles. This made us look more girlish and less inclined to eat people. Maribel was in a dark corner wearing a muzzle. The nuns had tied little bows on the muzzle to make it more festive. Mouth shut. Hello, my name's Claudette. I threw my head back and felt a hell clawing its way up my throat. I was about to lose all my skill points. I was about to fail my adaptive dancing test. Shoes on feet. Hello, My name is Claudette. But before the air could burst from my lungs, I felt the wind knocked out from me. Mirabella had intercepted my eye cry for help. She tackled me from behind, trying to shield me with her tiny body. You have ruined it! The sisters panted, circling around us. Mirabella has ruined it! Every girl was wild-eyed. The pack had been waiting for this moment. Mirabella cannot adapt! Back to the woods! Back to the woods! Mirabelle was still snarling in the center of it all, trying to figure out what the danger was so that she could defend me against it. I looked at the sisters and said, "Back to the woods, Mirabelle." In the morning, I knew Mirabelle was gone. I knew she'd been gone the minute that I felt her weight on my back. I packed her a tin lunch pail, 2 jelly sandwiches on saltine crackers, a chloroform squirrel, and a little note. Best wishes! I told myself I did everything I could. My first human lie. Judge, may I be excused to my next round?
Yes, go on ahead. Is there anyone else who's cross-entered that needs to go next? Okay, no. Then we will have Sydney, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And just making sure before I start, can everyone see and hear me fine?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yep.
When I met Jim, I was certain with him right off the bat. I loved the things that he talked about that he'd love so much. He had me come over to his apartment until late in the evening and we watched Soul Train clips on YouTube. And he'd look at me with these adoring eyes and say, "Being with you is the happiest place on earth." And I was like, "It really is." It took me no time to know that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with him and have children with him. The happy ever after part has been easy, but the children part, not so much. It was after 4 years of trying, 2 rounds of in vitro, and a miscarriage that we finally got pregnant with our daughter, Grace Pearl. We were ecstatic. Before we knew it, we were at the anatomy scan, which happens a little halfway through pregnancy. I couldn't wait. I wanted that little side profile. You know, the side profile that everyone thinks about with the ultrasound. Jim wanted to see it too, so he came with me. We were just chatting about where we were going to go for lunch after. And it took me a little bit to notice that the ultrasound technician wasn't saying a lot. She made a concerned noise. There's not a lot of amniotic fluid. Roll on the side. I'm going to talk to the doctor. Abortion laws attempting to advocate for the lives of the unborn, emotionally scarred pregnant women seeking abortion and may accept to risk their health. Women who seek this abortion should not be treated as heartless murderers by their government, but as the humans that they are. And to seek to protect. Grace's Playlist by Robert Hughes. I get up and she leads us down the hallway to talk to the doctor. And I Google, second trimester, no amniotic fluid. And what stares me back in the face is 80 to 90% fatal. We get into the doctor's office, and there's these pictures of newborns that the doctor has delivered. And everyone in there is smiling. The doctor comes in, not smiling, and introduces herself as Jen, not Dr. Meyer. Jen. That's not a good sign. She explains the following. Our daughter's kidneys are filled with fluid-filled cysts and they aren't working. She tells us her lungs aren't going to develop properly, and the prognosis is not good. To confirm this, she schedules a second ultrasound for an hour later. She lets us leave through the side door so we don't scare the other mothers with their expectant full bellies. For our sake, I guess. Soon we are taken back for a second ultrasound, and it's about 2 hours of detailed pictures of our daughter. The technician shows us the kidneys and the little black dots on them. There's no black background, which would be the amniotic fluid. There would be no profile picture of our daughter. The doctor then explains, there are 2 outcomes of your daughter. She will either be stillborn, being crushed to death by your body, or she will be born and the wheels will come off. I still remember that phrase. The wheels will come off. Without working long, she'll die within minutes. She'll hopefully survive in my arms. She then starts to explain the laws around abortion in the state of Missouri. She says you first have to sign consents, which aren't always easy to schedule because only certain people can allow you to sign them. Then you have to wait 72 hours to, I guess, consider what you are doing. You also can have an abortion after 21 weeks and 6 days. I'm 21 weeks. She leaves the room to give us a moment. And we just start crying and hugging each other. I think about it and I wonder, what choice do we have? She's gonna die 100% if we don't terminate this pregnancy. She'll suffer 100%. I look at Jim and I ask him if we have to do it. And he says, of course we do. It would be cruel to do anything else. The doctor comes back in, and we have told her we have made our decision. She says she will call someone as soon as possible to get the signed consents because we are so short on time. We are very lucky to get in the very next day. When Jim and I go into the facility the next day, there's these papers laid out. Before I even look at them, the doctor in scrubs stops us and says, these are state-mandated forms. They are not medical. They contain judgmental language designed to make you feel bad. It's not how we feel about you. I look down and I've been asked to sign that I've been offered to hear my daughter's heartbeat. I listen to her heartbeat on the Doppler at home every other day. I have a recording on my phone. I've been asked if I wanted to see extra ultrasounds. I've had 3 hours of ultrasounds just the day before, just because I wanted to see her anytime I could. Then I opened the packet. In bold, italicized letters, it reads, human life starts at conception. You are ending a separate, unique human life. Grief is interrupted by outrage. Nowhere in this documentation was how much Grace would suffer if I carried her to term. None of it talked about the increased risk to my health if I did not terminate. I wanted to light that paper on fire. But I signed them. I had to. And that's what started the 72-hour clock. The rest was a slow marching through time, where my friends cleared their calendars to invite me over to drink tea with them and do jigsaw puzzles with them. My parents came over and they removed every single stitch of baby from our home. I hugged Jim harder than I thought possible, and I just hoped we melted into one person. The night before, I asked Jim if he wanted to say goodbye to Grace. He said he wanted to have a little dance party for her, our own little soul train. So, in our pajamas, late at night, in the living room lit by candles, we danced with Grace. We danced to Riot Girl music, some Rolling Stones. We laughed at Let's Spend the Night Together. Because we always thought it would be a little different meaning with a newborn. We slow danced to Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, watching the tides roll away. But Jim had always said, it's the perfect song, just the way it is. We had to be at the hospital by 5 in the morning the next day on the operating room. As the pre-anesthesia cocktail hit me, I looked up to my doctor and I told her, now, I need you to know that I love my daughter. And I am doing this because I love my daughter. I was gently laid back on the operating table as they put my headphones in. They told me I wouldn't be asleep. And so we played Grace's playlist.
Are you ready?
I'm sorry, you cut out for me. Were you asking if I'm ready to go?
Amanda, I don't think we are able to hear you. On my end, it says your connection's a little bad. Are you able to hear us? Yeah, we'll just wait a couple of seconds and yeah.
Back, Caroline?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
Okay, great.
I can see you too.
Perfect. Okay. Before I begin, I would like to forewarn that my content may be triggering to some audience members as it contains mentions of domestic abuse. So if this makes you feel uncomfortable, please do not hesitate to leave now or at any time. I grew up in a deaf family. My mom is deaf, my dad is deaf, my extended family is deaf, and this usually prompts a lot of questions. I'm sure you've got some. So I'm just going to go ahead and answer the top 3 questions that I usually get. Yes, I know sign language. Yes, I learned how to talk because I'm not deaf. And yes, I will teach you all the dirty words. Growing up as a CODA, or child of deaf adults, I didn't know a lot about my parents' relationship. I knew about the money problems because I answered the phone a lot, but I didn't know about the fighting. It was August 15th, 1988, and something woke me up. According to the National Association of the Deaf, more than 500,000 deaf Americans use American Sign Language, and yet the language is virtually non-existent in an area where it is needed the most: domestic violence resources. Unfortunately, law enforcement is unprepared to communicate with deaf victims. The Atlantic reports that when police answer the call to a deaf domestic violence case, an interpreter being brought to the scene is rare. What's worse, they allow the spouse, frequently the abuser, to interpret. Unfortunately, this practice enables abusers to manipulate threats into misunderstandings. Author Cambria Prose demonstrates the challenge and importance of taking justice into her own hands and inspires us all to learn the basic signs of ASL. So when you see the signs, you can let them know that your safety matters. A Blind Ear by Cambria Prose. Before I go further, you should know a few things. When I was 7 years old, my dad moved us to the woods of Texas. We had no running water, no electricity, no plumbing. We used an outhouse. But my dad, he dug a water line, created a plumbing system. He even brought us electricity. And he did all of this by himself. And to me, as a kid, he was like Daniel Boone, Frank Lloyd Wright, and Ben Franklin, just all wrapped into one. And I was his baby girl. He would have done anything for me. There was this one time I was riding in the back of our Chevy pickup truck and my flip-flop just went tumbling down the Houston highway. And for some reason, seeing it tumble out of sight just made me burst into tears. And my dad, he saw me crying in the rear view and he would have none of that. So he brought the Chevy to a screeching halt, jumped out, and ran across 4 lanes of traffic. And my dad, he got that flip-flop. He raised it up like a trophy, ran back, handed it to me, and said, "Don't cry, baby girl. Don't cry." He was a superhero. And he was my dad. But he was also a husband, and not a very good one. It was August 15th, and something woke me up. Which, you know, one of the false assumptions about deaf people is that they're quiet. No, they have no regulation of sound. But that night, I heard a sound from my mom's bedroom, and I see the light was on. And I see her lying on the floor, and my dad is straddling her, and he's got his arm cocked back like he's ready to punch. And seeing me in the doorway made my mom shift her head. And in that split second, my dad's fist hit the ground and missed my mom's face by a fraction of an inch. I had never seen my dad hit my mom. I had never had him lay a hand on me. I raced to my bedroom and locked the door. But then, in one body slam, my dad knocked my bedroom door straight off its hinges. I grab this phone and start to dial 911, but he's already reached me. He's got the cord in his hands and he rips it right out of the wall. Then he starts to interrogate my mother about who she's sleeping with. My mother isn't giving my father any emotion. She's a blank slate. And this starts to get on my dad's nerves, to the point where he turns his attention to me. He starts to graphically describe my mom's sex life. Your mother is an SLUT slut. And I'm searching his face for a sign of who. Who is this man? Where is my father? And he's searching my face for a sign that I was on his side. And I wasn't. This made him snap. He grabbed my mother by the neck and in one move slams her against the wall and starts choking her. My mom's face was turning purple. Her eyes were bugged out. And the vein on her forehead was fat, like it might burst. I race to the dining room and grab the phone and call 911, and I hear the operator say, 911, what's your emergency? But my dad has already reached me, and he slams the phone back into the cradle. But since he's deaf, what he doesn't know is that the phone starts ringing. 911 called back immediately. And I know I'm not his baby girl anymore. I'm the enemy now. So I grab the phone and I scream, help! And in that instant, seeing my mouth move, my dad, he knew the jig was up. And the cops, they were there in a blurry instant. And that is something I will never forget. Well, one officer was tending to my mother. The other asked my father to explain what happened. I made the call. I interrupted. When he finally understood that my father was the problem, he asked me to interpret my father's Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. And they left me and my mother to pick up the pieces. Over time, I learned that my father had been a cheat since day one. He had been abusing my mom the whole time. But because they used to fight behind closed doors, I didn't know those things. Then I woke up. My mom chose to give me that superhero of a dad, that Daniel Boone, that Frank Lloyd Wright, that Ben Franklin, the father who would rescue my flip-flop. And I know that that is the one I have to choose to remember. Thank you.
Okay, next up, speaker number 5.
Hi, can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Lovely. All right, and is the quality good?
Yes.
Perfect. Am I able to begin whenever I'm ready? Mama says no elbows on the table. For years, I'd get fuzzy bits from my sweater sleeves stuck in the edges where I rest my wrist. I remind Mama that she whispers too loud, that her murmurs are screams to the masses, her voice shrill in my left ear. I insist that I keep my elbows off the table, and I even look down to ensure that this is true. Still, she swats at my arms and scowls. Mama speaks in spaces that do not empty. Ay, she says across the kitchen spatula waving, Mijo, los codos. Then, otra vez. Mama mutters something about my behavior being synonymous to a caveman. Intergenerational trauma is trauma passed from one generation to the next. Recent research by the National Library of Medicine found that immigration itself is traumatic for many in the Latina community, especially amongst youth. LAMHA, the Latina Adolescent Migration Health and Adaptation Study, found that of 281 Latina immigrant youth, around 30% were symptomatic of anxiety and 7% were symptomatic for depression, with undocumented Latina youth being more at risk than documented youth. The Latina community has been experiencing intergenerational mass trauma since the conquest, subjugation, and genocide of indigenous civilizations by European colonial powers, which is perpetuating to this day and exacerbated by the trauma of fleeing political instability, economic issues, human rights violations, and violence in their countries of origins before immigrating to more developed nations. Author Patricia Patterson gives us a story on how intergenerational trauma can affect interpersonal communication, relationships, and mental health. A story that can help us acknowledge the pain in our societies and help put us all on a path toward healing. This is Spirits by Patricia Patterson. I tell Mama that she smells like cilantro and cebolla when she leans over a plate of black beans and Mexican rice stained red. She asked me to pass more tortillas. ¿Cómo? She asked. I raised my hands in surrender. No lo quise decir de esa manera, mami. I say, lo dije con cariño. Cariño, yeah, she says. You live to mock me, a true payaso. She raises her hands above her head. Her tortilla unravels on her plate, maíz unfolding, striking porcelain and bouncing twice like rubber before settling flat. I am tempered glass. Mama looks through me and forms fissures in my edges. She strings curses into linoleum. Cristo, hijo de tu padre Julio Ignacio Ortega Hernández II. Pura tontería. When I imagine Mama, I imagine a stone pillar, the kind that can weather eons of rain and weight and heartbreak, the kind that never crumbles. When I break a porcelain plate while washing dishes, Mama says, "¿Qué torpe eres? Watch what you're doing." I have to remind Mama that I'm 16 and not 3. And she asks me if I have to write that down or recall it to memory, and hands me rubber gloves and a dish rag. "What?" she says. "Did you think that you were going to get out of your chores? Ándale." Mama polishes the kitchen countertops with a massive bottle of Fabuloso. She hums while she works, spreading lavender fragrance over every surface in the house. I watch her scrub away memories she could no longer keep. My mom makes mole poblano on winter days when her bottom lip splits and bleeds into her pillowcase. She chops 12 dried ancho chiles, adds 6 pasilla chiles, 4 tablespoons of sesame seeds, a half teaspoon of dried thyme, and a half teaspoon of dried marjoram. My mom mixes the ingredients and loves them together. She crumbles dry bay leaves and breaks cinnamon sticks and chokes on the powder that they release. Ay, she says, la mantequilla. I hand her a half stick of butter and remind her that mole poblano doesn't require butter. But I stop when I see that she has other plans. She chooses to cook the chicken in a frying pan. The chicken cools down much quicker this way and is much kinder on tender fingers that seek to shred pieces apart before adding sauce. I'm conscious of this compassion because I am the fingers that burn as Mama blends and blends a world of spices. I asked Mama if Father like mole poblano. Not Papa, just Father. I don't remember him well enough to call him by his Spanish name. Leave, she says. Mama, I say, I'm sorry. I'm empty, she says. No accent. Mama believes in spirits. She says that our shadows are remnants of our ancestors. Sadness, there's salt and tears and bones. When Mama looks at me, she says that she sees my father's shadow, and my grandfather's shadow, and my great-grandfather's shadow. Ortega or Hernandez, I ask. Hernandez, she says. It's your father's said bloodline, not mine. Lately, Mama's been seeing shadows everywhere. I notice how the shadows form craters in her eyes and settle into the creases of her brow. I notice how they make a home of her warm body. Mama looks older now, her eyes shifty and strained. I place a hand on her shoulder and ask her how she's been sleeping. She rambles on about varying shapes and masses of shadows. Mama claims she can no longer see her own. Does that mean you're dying? I ask. Mijito, she says. Claro que no. I am stronger than a stalda ox. You're right, I say. You're too stubborn to die. I remember the Bible verse that used to hang outside of the Presbyterian Church on East Lenore Street. When I was 12, I would pass by the sign every day on the way to school. Mama doesn't know about the verse because we were Catholics, and Catholics don't read signs outside the Presbyterian churches. But I remember Proverbs 15:17. Better is a dinner of herbs where love is than a stalled ox and hatred therewith. It was one of those times when I memorized something I truly didn't understand because I thought it might be important one day. Now I wonder if Mama's stalled ox is full of hatred from years of bitterness. Mama smiles at the prospect of embodying a stalled ox, the natural manifestation of a stubborn Mexican woman. See, she says, it's my Ortega blood. We bear no shadows. Mama refrains from discussing spirits for a while. She fixes her eyes on a corner of our dining room table and grips her bottle of Fabuloso neon sponge. Her gloves dance like rubber chickens, too large for her spindly figure. As Mama scours the carcass of our home, I wonder if my shadows will always follow me and remind me that even my own grief is not my own.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker number 6, Kathleen.
Hi, can you confirm that you can see me and hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. You didn't thank me, Malcolm. I mean, that's not a minor detail. It's kind of a big one. It's it's our whole relationship in a fucking nutshell. I mean, you thanked 112 people tonight. You thanked your cast, you know, your agents, your mother. But your gaffer, your fucking third grade teacher, the usher who worked with you at the theater when you were 11 years old and saw whatever the fuck, I mean, every single person from your mother to Taylor came up and said, I know that you're probably a little disappointed that he didn't thank you, but I know how much he counts on you. Honestly, Malcolm, it's not just about you forgetting to thank me. No, it's about how you see me, about how you view my contribution, not just to this relationship, but to your work, specifically about a movie that you made about my life. The Oxford Dictionary defines the word love as an intense feeling of deep affection. It also defines the word toxic as harmful in a pervasive or insidious way. As a Black woman continuing to grow in a fast-evolving world, I know what it's like to be in a toxic relationship. Why do we stay? I honestly don't know. But together, we will empathize with Marie and Malcolm and Marie, written by Sam Levinson, as we explore the multi-dimensional reality of Black love. I'm sorry, are you actually belittling and yelling at me across the kitchen table because you're too busy eating mac and cheese? I mean, you realize how like disturbing it is that you're able to compartmentalize to such a degree that you can just like casually abuse me while eating mac and cheese that I fucking made, by the way. Like, how does that work? Huh? You're like, oh, this is so delicious. God, she's such a cunt. Ooh, I wonder if there's more mac and cheese left. God, what a cunt. You know, if I could direct Kraft mac and cheese commercials, I really think I would. God, she's such a fucking cunt. Like, all right, Malcolm. Hey, how about we just cut the bullshit? Yeah? How about you just be honest about the real reason why you stuck by me? Anyone? Because I was a story. I was good fucking material. Oh yeah. I was a world of emotions that you weren't used to seeing so fucking close. I didn't realize what I was to you. A movie. A fucking tragedy. One that you could continue watching for as long as you were there for me. So don't pretend like this was some selfless fucking act, Malcolm. My God, it is literally the basis of your art. And it is the reason why all of these people are calling you brave and brilliant and fearless. So tell us, Malcolm, tell us, how are you able to channel the voice of a young woman so well, so authentically? Well, Jennifer, you see, that's a good question. I guess you could say I stole it. Not a literal theft, no, a spiritual one. Jesus, Malcolm. Fake ass, fraudulent, thieving fucking comment. You didn't want me. No, because if you did, you wouldn't be the sole author of this film.